Hi, Baba Mori, and this is Memento Mori. This is my first actual show, and forgive the poor light quality because I forgot to charge my light. Wonderful. Happy Mabon. We are currently on the precipice of some really big changes, some really big shifts in the world. Um, we just went through a new moon eclipse. Uh, right, right at the end of eclipse season, we end up with a Virgo solar eclipse, which is wild in the sense of the balance between life and death that we're going to be talking about. So, I have notes because I've never done a podcast before, so this is how we're going to start out. I took a lot of notes, and then what I ended up doing was writing down my thoughts. That turned into automatic writing. So I'm going to go through some of the notes that I got, and these are coming from these three sources, just so we're all clear. We have Hekate's Liminal Rights by Sarita Deste and David Rankine. I don't know how to. I'm sorry. Keeping Her Keys by Cindy Brannon, and the Llewellyn's Complete Book of Correspondences by Sandra Kynes. So these three books are where these little jotted down notes are coming from. So here we go. The new moon. There are some correspondences for the new moon, including the rune Ingwas, the crown and heart chakras, the Morrigan, Mama Mo, right? Crowd favorite. Hekate. We're going to be talking about her a lot tonight. Destruction and birth and the balance between those two things, divination, shadow work, and specifically wormwood as an herb. There's a few other ones, but wormwood's important because it shows up for a couple different things. In Virgo, so we're dealing with earth, yin, the numbers 6 and 9, Berkana and Kenaz as runes, hermit and magician for tarot cards, Odin as the deity or the male deity, because we got Artemis, Demeter, Kore, Ishtar, Inanna, Persephone, Vesta, and a few more. I didn't want to continue writing, but those are the ones that relate to some of the stuff that we're talking about tonight. Oriel as the angel that's connected with Virgo. Consciousness, cycles, destiny, independence, and intuition are all themes of Virgo. When we think about Virgo, a lot of times in the Western world, we see the maiden, the virgin, the type A personality, like perfectionist, mean girl kind of vibe, right? No, more so, we should be seeing, or what I get from Virgo is more of a matron type, like a mother. And to be sure, mothers can be extremely, extremely destructive when they need to be. Boudica is a perfect example of that situation. Um, so we have autumn, which is, it's got a few different things on its own that also correspond with these Virgo and the new moon thing. Right. So it's autumn equinoxes right here. This is what we're doing today. West to northwest. Northwest is more for later fall. Orange, cups in tarot, the snake as a just general animal because it's about transformation and snakes shed their skin. Dionysus is the main deity for autumn: abundance, manifestation, crone, goals, death, war, and battle. Ooh, we're seeing a lot of these things adding up in our real world. Today is Monday, so I got the correspondences for that too. Obviously, the moon, the high priestess, and the moon in tarot. Wormwood again, silver, Hekate, Thoth, Gabriel, the astral realm, clairs, specifically clairvoyance, dream work, fertility, healing, the home, magic, prophecy, psychic, anything, and truth. As of 3:33 this afternoon, according to Vedic calculations, we had 3 planets in Virgo, including the Sun, Moon, and Mercury. We had 2 in Leo, Venus, and Ketu, and Saturn and Neptune were both in Pisces. There was just a mix of some other stuff, like the ascendant was Sagittarius, Mars was in Libra, the Gemini, Jupiter was in Gemini, sorry, and Rahu was in Aquarius. Well, Pluto is in Capricorn. I know y'all are not going to like that, but Pluto's in Capricorn, y'all. We have not gotten into the age of Aquarius just yet. So, this podcast is called Memento Mori because we have lost the sacred aspect of death. We see it as this thing to be feared, this thing to run away from, this thing that is constantly trying to chase us down. And that's not the case. It's a natural part of the cycle, just as much as birth. You have to have something die in order for something to be born, right? Like if you take actual birth with humans, for example, once a child is born, a child is no longer, because the person who has had that baby is no longer a child. If they were past adult age, I understand. I'm not talking about kids having kids. I'm talking about like the mentality of the person, right? Once you have a child, you don't have really, I mean, you can if you want to be a trash parent, but you don't have the option to be a child anymore. You can still be a kid at heart, but there's a big difference between being mentally a child, right? And being a kid at heart. Remembering that we are going to die gives us this chance to look at life with a little bit more gratitude, with a little bit more love, and maybe looking at each other with a little bit more generosity, because we're all going to die at some point. It's going to happen. Memento Mori, spelled with my name, is going to focus on not just remembering that death is sacred and it's a part of life, but remembering to love you while you're alive. Because self-love is one of the most important and underused ways that we can change this world, this planet, and the way that everybody thinks. Self-love is one of the most slept on tools to elevate consciousness. Some deities that are associated with this time of year are specifically going to be death deities. I also went and looked up a bunch of death deities, right? These are the ones that I wanted to bring up. A lot of them have actually been smushed together over time, depending on the culture that you're talking about. So, you know, Artemis, Athena, Babe, Ereshkigal, Freya, Hekate, Inanna, Ishtar, Kali, Maat, the Morrigan, Persephone, Rhiannon, Sekhmet, Ares, Baal, Balder, Cernunnos, Dagda, Green Man, Hades, Nergal, Odin, Osiris, Pluto, Set, Shiva, and Thor. Now, I have talked about Thor on my TikTok in the instance of my rune series where I talk about Thorizaz, and Thor literally being the electromagnetic energy that maintains humanity, right? He's not just keeping us alive. He's also maintaining the death to life cycle. So, fall equinox takes us into the solar months of autumn. This is when Hekate leads Persephone back into the underworld. She walks in front of her to light the way and protect her from anything in the darkness of the journey, right? On the way back out into spring, she walks behind her to keep anything from following her out. Um, Everything in nature follows this journey into the darkness as well. All of the animals, all of the plants will pull their resources into themselves, right? We even see this in animals that don't hibernate, like squirrels, right? We see a lot of squirrels around here in the winter. They gather up nuts, but they don't really hibernate. They pull all of their resources into one place so that they have it available so that they can be there for the next season, right? So, if nature does this, right? Plants do the same thing. They pull all of their resources back into the center of the plant, into the roots, and then they gather nutrients throughout the winter for new growth in the spring. We really should be following nature's lead in this. We need to be pulling ourselves back into the center for internal reflection through the winter, for us to gather information, for us to do these things so that we can be better, right? The energy follows Hekate and Persephone down into the underworld. The energy of the entire planet follows them down into the underworld. And I know the story is that Demeter is so grief-stricken that she stops everything from growing. But between Persephone leaving and Demeter stopping everything, there is a period of time. That's where fall is, right? It's during that period of time where everything is like, oh shit, something's about to happen. It's about to go down. We need to just like lock in. That's what we're going through right now. We need to be focused on, for instance, Yera, the rune Yera. Seeing all of the things that we've done over the past year, figuring out what we are doing in the next year and what we need to keep and what we need to let go of. Part of Virgo is about digestion. It's kind of like mushrooms, right? So Virgo is a sign that is, it doesn't really control it, but it is over the digestive system, the intestinal tract. And basically what it does is it takes everything and pulls from it what we need, pushes out the rest, everything that we don't need, and we move on. Like, it's not a big, huge ordeal. It's just natural digestion, right? Mushrooms are a really good example of this. They take anything that is dead, anything at all, they grow on it, excuse me, and they turn it into something that is usable for other things to grow. And the fruiting bodies then have information that literally alters our DNA. We'll get into that on another episode. All right, so this energy follows Hekate and Persephone down into the underworld. In the Homeric hymn to Demeter, Hekate guides Persephone to and from the underworld. Hekate alone comes to Persephone's aid during her exile to Hades. She can hear her cries from her cave. This story is the beginning of the lore of Hekate being both guard and guiding light. She is the sun as the world soul, as well as the moon as the goddess of the underworld. Blah, blah, blah. She's both. She's literally all of it. If we just want to be really real, she's literally all of it. She's the mother of all. She's the world soul. She's literally creation. So in the last little while, we've had some important dates come up, right? The festival of Hecatasia that is held at Lagina happened on September 7th. under the full moon in Aquarius. Aquarius is about the collective, right? That was also an eclipse. In Vedic astrology, eclipses are portals. They're doorways. They're ways between one thing and another. It's a very liminal space, and Hekate rules over those liminal spaces. The 21st, yesterday, we had new moon. Again, another eclipse. This one's in Virgo. So we're going from the collective, right? Everything, to what do we need to keep? What do we need to get rid of? And the mother aspect that is Virgo, right? And then today we have Mabon. We have the equinox. We equals day and night. So it really is all about balance. During the eclipse portal, I have gone through metamorphosis. My thought processes are different. My direction, my intention, a lot of just the way that I move and the way that I operate are just different. A lot of this is automatically written after, like, I started writing and then I got into automatic writing. So I'm just going to read some of it the way that I wrote it because I don't want to lose the wording that was channeled. Just preface that real quick. Here we go. No longer am I mentally looking for someone else to do for me. I remember that I can do for me too. Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of myself and my own strengths. Strength isn't just about how much you can withstand. That one hit hard. You can be a strong leader, a strong writer, a strong personality. You can be strong in so many ways that don't involve struggle. Choosing someone else's benefit over your own is a kind of strength that most people don't experience unless they're responsible for another being, whether that be human or animal or plant, it doesn't matter. Even then, our society teaches us to worry about me, and us only applies to other people like ourselves or that are part of our family. We no longer see ourselves as a whole. Instead, the nuclear family has isolated us into gilded cages of tradition. Switching our internal mindset from how can I be better, do better, or have more to how can I grow for the benefit of the whole. This is not about sacrificing yourself for the benefit of others. It is bettering yourself in such a way that it benefits everyone. For example, this podcast is a way out of my comfort zone. It's way, way, way out of my comfort zone. But I know it's the next logical step, and I have more to share now than I did when I started on TikTok 5 years ago. And that was the whole point of me getting on TikTok, was to share the things that I had to say, or the things that, like, because I'm a medium, so the things that I was channeling needed to get out. This is the evolution of that, and as uncomfortable as it may be, it is here. The introvert in me is in panic mode, if you can't tell by my throat chakra that keeps trying to close up. While my 10th house Taurus and Leo moon ascendant combo is pushing and pulling me towards this path, this might start out slow, right? It might take me a couple episodes to really get into this, but once my stage fright subsides and I get comfy in this new space, I'll be all right. I just have to get the bull in me used to being in a new pasture. I got to get used to the other things in this new pasture that I'm not used to having to deal with. But I don't shy away from confrontation, and that's kind of been my problem my whole life. I'm not sacrificing anything but my own fears to be here with you, sharing what I know now. Until we correct the system to focus on the benefit of the whole over the self, the protection of women and children, along with the vulnerable, over the protection of the so-called successful men who would not be successful without all of the financial breaks and loopholes they use to or invisible labor of the people in their teams and families. None of them reached their status alone. None of them. Not a single one of them got there literally all by their little bitty lonesome by pulling up their own two bootstraps. Not a single one. And they would not still be here in the position that they are in today if they did not have access to all those loopholes. Right? We currently live in a society that puts men over women in almost every way. We don't even have say in how we bring life into this world, and we're literally the portals. We're literally the portals for new souls to come onto this planet, and we don't even have a say in how that happens in this country, right? In the 1970s, we had a global issue with female infanticide and gendercide that went on for so long it actually skewed the male to female ratio. Now we have more men than women, and I don't really care what species you look into. When you have more males than females, there's going to be problems. Okay? There should always be more females in the group or population. We see it in almost every species. And it's not that there's a male in charge of a group of women. No, it's that the females have collectively decided they want to breed with this male and will put up with him in order to do so. Alpha males have been debunked long time ago by the guy that made the theory. In 2011, a study was done that showed that when there are too many young unmarried men, they get violent every time throughout history. They called them young surplus males. The only reason to have an excess of young men with no strings attached is to be able to send them to war. Who makes money off of the war? The men at the top. Nobody else. Well, I mean, some people, like the businesses that provide things for war, they make money. War's pretty profitable in a capitalistic patriarchal society. And so they need good young strapping men that don't have anything else going for them or a family back home to take care of outside of their mama crying for them. They get sent off because for whatever reason in a patriarchy, some lives matter more than others. I hope we're starting to see that this is not the natural order of things, right? Okay, so if there were no military, right, and folks had to find a way to get along in today's world, I'm not talking about way back when like we didn't have the good sense that we should have today. In today's world, if you took all of the militaries away and all of the people that want to start wars, enough said. So especially if we take notes from our closest genetic primates, the bonobos, and so what they do is they are a matriarchal primate, which we are genetically closer to than chimpanzees. They didn't want to tell you that either. What they do is the aggressive males are either culled or shunned from the group. And by shunned, they end up off by themselves with no protection, no way to, like, they're not even allowed to access the same food. And they've got to travel in between tribes of other primates. It's wild thought. A lot of those don't survive. So, I'm not talking about all guys. What I'm talking about are specifically violent offenders. If you do something without someone's consent, right? We're talking about, right? We all understand? Just Lorraine about it and be done with it. Like, we have some states that are doing castration. That still provides them the tools to continue doing what they're doing. Now there's just no risk for pregnancy. I don't, like, they're not taking all of it. So what is, anyhow, I don't promote violence, but I'm also not against it. I feel like it can be used appropriately, and it should be used appropriately, right? Most indigenous cultures have a some kind of sacred relationship with anger, right? There's a righteous anger. So, like, for instance, if you anybody for any other reason outside of self-defense, right? Or the protection of somebody else. You made a choice. You are now a danger to society. Why should we keep you in the society? It doesn't make any sense to protect the perpetrators of violence. It doesn't make any sense unless you don't really care about the people that they're attacking. That's literally the only way that makes sense. Anyhow, we can't continue to allow the most violent and aggressive among us to color the entire population. Humans are not naturally violent, sinful beings. We have been brainwashed with the idea that we are by science and history and religion, and all of them being written by the same types of people. We're capable of really, really horrible things. I'm not saying that we're not, but that doesn't mean it's our default, right? It may be our default in the society that we live in right now because there is a severe issue with resource hoarding, right? And anytime there's a lack of resources, the people who don't have resources are going to get violent. They know this, and they do it on purpose. They set it up this way on purpose. It's so frustrating because, like, I feel like a lot of times when this stuff clicks for me, I feel like such a dumbass because I grew up in a very religious, very conservative, very Republican household, right? So for me, a lot of this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, how did I not know? How did this not click before? Right? So if you hear frustration in my voice, understand that it's to myself. I'm sorry. I heard it and I'm correcting it. Apologize. So we're not naturally violent or sinful beings. We're really not. We're capable of it, but it doesn't mean that that's our default. When we have access to resources, our default is generosity. And that can be seen throughout history if you know how to read between the lines of propaganda, because the victors write history. And they're not going to say great things about the people that they just took over or conquered or whatever they did, right? They're not going to have nice things to say about them. Violence and destruction are part of life. It's up to it's up to us to use them for the benefit to ourselves or the benefit to the whole. Like, we have to decide how to use them. Are we going to use destruction and violence to benefit just ourselves, or in the protection of the whole, right? I'm not saying take it into your own hands by any means. These should be standard judicial consequences. Right. Yeah, I'm still talking about having a judicial system and having a court system and having people go through a process where they get deemed guilty or not, right? But if you get found guilty of certain things, bro, I don't know why it doesn't make sense. I have a homestead. If I have an aggressive rooster, that dude's going in the pot. I raise rabbits. If I have an aggressive buck and he's not nice to the ladies, he does not get to continue being in the breeding program, right? That's how it's supposed to be dealt with. Like, anyone who threatens the safety of women and children is a danger to society as a whole. Again, I'm not calling for anybody to take anything into their own hands or hate speech against anyone else. I'm literally talking about violent offenders need to be dealt with once. Take a look around the world and see if we remove the ones causing the problems, like in the Congo and Sudan and Palestine, and even here in the US and literally everywhere else that bully ass people are doing bully ass shit, the rest of us can live in some kind of peace, right? I don't think it's any more extreme than the way people talk about any other group of people that they deem beneath them. The difference is I'm talking about people who are choosing to hurt other people. Those people should not be part of society. They're choosing to be counter society. And we, as a society, are choosing to coddle them. I don't think that I'm better than anybody else. They're simply a liability to the safety of others at that point. We have serial killers and rapists because of our current system, not because people are inherently bad, but because our system panders to the abuser and they get chance after chance after chance before they're finally caught for the final time, and then they're made a spectacle of. This is not something that we should be parading around as if our law enforcement did some wonderful thing. They killed multiple people before you got them under control. That doesn't sound like a job well done. That sounds like a societal issue, a systemic problem. And then we have a whole subculture of people who are literally stuck on watching true crime stuff. And I am one of those people. I am. But not as much as I used to be. Bailey Sarian, y'all. Yes. Anyhow, we have a whole group of people who love to watch it. It's been something that has been romanticized in our culture so much that we have books like 50 Shades of Grey, y'all. So, I have to get back on track. When we have things like serial killers and serial rapists and things like that, it's literally a sign that our system is failing to protect the general population. That's all it is. Memento Mori. We all die. Why are we keeping dangerous people around to hurt more people for so long? Like, why is that a thing? Everybody dies. And there's so many people that did not deserve to die the way that they died at the hands of these other people who literally end up spending whatever punishment they have behind bars, getting 3 hots in a cot. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Back to what I was doing. That whole part might actually get me done on this whole thing before I even get started. All my wild and crazy ideas. Okay, so all that being said, our world is on this, like, we keep talking about, we're on the brink of a shift. We're in the shift. We're seeing the shift happen. It's happening. We are in the shift, right? And it's shifting back towards a matriarchy. It really is. How do we facilitate that? On an individual level, we bring the matriarchy and matriarchal ideas into our own life. For instance, women within matriarchy are seen as having an innate connection to source. In a patriarchy, women are not allowed a direct connection with source. They have to go through their husband, their pastor, their priest, some kind of male to get to their male creator, right? Doesn't make any sense, because when you think about our bodies as portals for new souls to come in, we would have to have a natural connection to the source of all souls, right? Hekate is the world soul, the mother of all, and we each have an innate and eternal connection to her, which means we're all connected within her as well. You cannot be part of the whole without having access to the whole, really. Like, right? So, women and femme-centered people have an easier time getting started with their relationship with Hekate just because of that innate kind of connection. Now, I say femme-centered because yeah, I think we all know where I stand. Women are the portals for those souls. Whether we have children or not, we are all connected to Pamator at incarnation as women. Within our DNA is encoded a direct connection, because we have like the blueprints, like the X's are the blueprint. They came first. So that was a huge revelation when I found that out. I think it was for a lot of people, right? When they found out that women came first. Like for a long time, women were around without men. Yeah, if you didn't know that, I'm going to need you to go look that up, because it is wild science, but it is accurate. So, and humans are not the only species that has happened in. Continuing, let me get through all of my pages of notes, right? So bringing matriarchy back into your life can look very different for everyone. As a mom of boys and girls, I try to teach them the unfiltered truth about the patriarchy and to treat everyone the way that they would want to be treated. Each one of us is capable of great harm and great benefit to ourselves and others. Honoring yourself, the balance of masculine and feminine within you, because, well, let's be honest, that's where the masculine came from, was the feminine. Give yourself gratitude for the things that you love more often than you complain to yourself about the things that you don't love or that you don't have. Focus on your glimmers versus your triggers. If you don't know what a glimmer is, it is the moment that brings you joy in the same way that a trigger brings you fear or anxiety or anger or whatever, right? Glimmers bring you happiness. They bring you the opposite side of that spectrum, right? And stopping patriarchal behavior in yourself while also calling it out in others. This is a hard one because a lot of us don't know what that looks like. We don't know what constitutes patriarchal behavior. But a very, very simple thing that I use is this set up for the benefit of children and women, or for men? Is this mindset set up for the benefit of women and children or men? Patriarchy harms all of us. It really, really does. And it should be treated with the disdain reserved for racism, colonialism, slavery, etc., because they all stem back to patriarchy. You can't get to those things without it. It was there first. And I know that we had slavery before we had what is our current patriarchal system. There's been slaves throughout history. I'm literally talking about slavery in our modern world, right? A patriarchal society only ever allows for a select few to benefit from the whole system. You have a handful of people at the top, regardless of who those people are, handful of people at the top benefiting from literally everybody else beneath them's work. This is a terrorism of systemic oppression for everyone that is not that select few, to include the people who are adjacent to that select few. So literally, even the marital partners of people in power are part of the oppressed group, because they are only accessing that power adjacent to this person and within the confines of complying to the system. If they don't comply, they don't get to keep that adjacency to power, however you say that. It goes away, right? A matriarchy maintains balance within the whole. Children, women, the elderly, the disabled, the vulnerable should be central. Those are the people we need to be protecting. It makes absolutely no sense to live in a society that tells us that men should be alpha males, but they also need protecting from their own loneliness. I thought you were lone wolves, guys. These vulnerable groups of people need to be getting the most assistance and protection. There should be no hoarding of resources. Like, if you can't spend it in your life or your children's lives or their children's lives, there's absolutely no reason for you to have that much unless you're literally just trying to hurt other people. Because, come on, you can't make that make sense. In a world where children are starving, you cannot make billionaires make sense. So let the matriarchy rise within you with every breath, every step. Honor your vessel as the temple that it is, because we are portals through which souls are cycled. They cannot disconnect us from our divinity. The womb is divinity manifest. When allowed to birth the way we're meant to, we are physiologically designed to not only orgasm during birth, but also to have a DMT-induced psychedelic trip, because our brain produces DMT. And when we go into labor, hormones and all kinds of other stuff come together and not only create an ecstatic feeling, much like a trance would, right? Or a Kundalini awakening would, but it also provides psychedelic or hallucinatory effects, right? So you mean to tell me that while souls are moving through us, we have connection to the source in that moment? No, really? What? Yeah, yeah. but putting us on our backs and medicating us prevents us from really being able to do that. And the women that do are shamed about it, or they self-shame about it a lot of times because they don't understand what happened. They're not taught any of this. But I digress. We are divinity manifest. Women are the manifestation of the cosmic womb wanting to experience itself, right? Men are the manifestation of women wanting to experience ourselves, which is why in a matriarchy, their primary purpose would be reproduction, not protection or production, because women can protect and produce just as well. We're showing that in almost all of the polls. All of the statistics, we're outpacing men now that we're being given an opportunity to do so, to join like male dominated fields. This is what's happening, right? We are divinity manifest. The creator is now and has always been a womb. Think about the Orphic egg, right? Let's take it back to Hekate. Think about the Orphic egg. It contains all potential, the cosmic womb, right? That's where creation comes from. We've lived in an upside down world for way, way too long, and it's time to bring back the balance to the whole. We need dark in order to see the light. And I know there was a big thing about light and dark that just got put out into the world yesterday, but I'm telling you right now, without the darkness, you wouldn't be able to see the light. You just wouldn't. But you can only see the dark when the light goes away, right? You can't really see the darkness in the light. You gotta have both of them for both of them. That's why we have two different aspects of Hekate, where we have the sun and the world soul, and the moon and the goddess of the underworld. You have to have light and dark. They can't be opposing factors that are fighting. They go together. They're lovers. You can't admire stars in the same way in a light polluted area on a full moon as you can when you're in the middle of nowhere on a new moon, right? So before we start talking about how darkness is bad, We literally would not be able to see the stars without the darkness. Darkness is creation. It is. That is where things grow. Seeds, babies, they all grow like chicks in eggs, reptiles in eggs, things in wombs. They all grow in darkness. It's not just necessary, it's the origin of everything. And so we let Hekate guide us into the darkness of the other world, underworld. I keep saying otherworld, and I'm not sure why, but I feel like it's a slip that's supposed to be happening. Down there, we work to better ourselves, like tree roots gathering nutrients in the fall and winter to provide for new growth in the spring and summer. We walk with the world soul to protect our soul and work with our soul to gather new information, to prune old belief systems, to knock down the walls dividing us from each other, and to create something new that will better the world in the seasons to come. What are your goals? I know I set that up to be so cool, and then I just failed. What are your goals going into this season? What are your goals going into fall? What kind of nutrients are you trying to pull in, and what kind of belief systems are you trying to prune, right? How will you better yourself for the benefit of the whole? That's been a fun one for me this week. That's why we're here. What are you doing to protect children and women in your life or around the world, right? A lot of us do not have the ability to protest in the same way as other people, or to travel to help, like in flotillas, right? Some of us, we can't leave because we have children here that would be basically defenseless without us, right? Like it's very hard position to be in when you want to help and you don't really have a way to do it. One of the ways that we can do that is teaching our children to do better, be better, make different choices. Sometimes activism is happening behind closed doors in conversations with children who will one day be running the show. God, there's so many more pages. Many of us are disabled, oppressed, etc., and have less access to traditional means of rebellion. We can do so with inner work. And inner work has not been used to its fullest capacity. We really have not been able to elevate humanity and consciousness the way that we should have been, because the inner work has been kind of kept from us with this idea of, the only access we have to the divine is through the church, whatever church that might be, right? So we're all part of the whole that is Hekate, but she's not looking for worship. She wants you to be sovereign. And as a sovereign part of a whole, you can manipulate reality for the benefit of all. If you're in a system of oppression that denies your innate connection to the divine, you'll never be able to change your reality in any significant way that benefits more than just you. But if we let go of the ladder that they set up for us, if we stop trying to climb that ladder to get to the top, to be the select few. Like, there's so many people that make choices based off the idea that one day they might be a billionaire too, instead of the reality that they are closer to where I'm at economically than they are to being a millionaire or a billionaire. Like, it's crazy, right? But as a sovereign part of the whole, you can manipulate reality for the benefit of all. If you're in a system of oppression that denies your innate connection to the divine, you'll never be able to change your reality. If we let go of the ladder, knock it down, right? They lose access. They lose access to our energy, because that's basically what the patriarchy is energy vampirism, right? They can't scavenge from us if we stop participating in the system. We can do this, and we are doing this in little ways, like not going back to office work after COVID and working remotely or for yourself. A huge hit to this whole system, specifically for women, would be if we were to stop appeasing the beauty industry, right? The shaving, the makeup, the surgical enhancements, all the gender affirming care that we get in order to attain and retain the male gaze, right? If we stopped doing that and saw ourselves as beautiful manifestations of divinity, we would embrace aging and our bodies in general instead of constantly feeling like we needed to fix something. I'm not saying don't take care of yourself. Actually, I'm saying the opposite. Take care of your vessel as if it were the body of a goddess, because it is. Not to look younger or more like the social norm, but because it is sacred. That's why you take care of it. And especially not for the sole benefit of accessing or maintaining the male gaze. Do the things for you, not for the men, and watch the whole system fall apart. Patriarchy is the root cause of things like pedophilia, and brainwashing women into staying young as long as possible is a huge part of that. Huge part of that. We don't need to be or look young to have value. According to evolution, our value is in our wisdom and our ability to lead and teach the community. That's why we go through menopause, and men can reproduce throughout their whole lives. Pregnancy is literally life or death for us on a daily. So it makes sense to stop reproduction when the level of knowledge is sufficient to guide the next generation. It is now, and has always been, our responsibility as women, as womb carriers, to guide humanity to its highest potential. And patriarchy keeps us all small. I almost did an hour, you guys. Oh, I hope you guys have a lot of comments. I really, really do. I hope that you really enjoyed it. I worked really hard on getting these thoughts out in a way that was helpful. And, you know, I think I did a good job with not cussing. Oh my God. All right. Thank you guys for coming. I don't really have a tagline yet. But Memento Mori. We're all going to die one day. Live your life and love you. And remember, you are your neighbor.